why am I feeling sad versus why am I feeling happy? Well, my sadness tells me there's something in the environment I'm in that doesn't work for me. And my joy, my happiness, will tell me, okay, something in this environment's working for me.
This is Find Joy with Joyan Season 2, where joy gets stronger, our community gets bigger, and together we become better versions of ourselves in a world full of limitless possibilities. I'm your host, Joyan Chan. And every Wednesday, we bring you inspiring stories that will light up your soul, powerful message that will make you go wow, and fun conversations that will crack you up with me and my special guests and friends. And it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. If you are new here, this podcast is for you if you are looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. We dive deep into mindset mastery, spirituality, love and relationship matters, and how to manifest more success and abundance in all aspects of your life, however that looks. This podcast has got your back every step of the way. Now, without further ado, get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Our guest today creates books, games, and software about the biology of emotions, family dynamics, and botany. It guides you through the sensations, emotions, and needs of family dynamics, which turn challenges into talking points so that everyone feels the connection they deserve without having to abandon their authentic self. In his Biology of Emotions book series, he takes you through the pathways approach of emotions as part of our biology, which helps you understand the purpose of emotions that guide us without resorting to endless rules. And he's here today to give you emotional awareness tools in your pocket, which makes them available right when you need them so that you don't miss an opportunity for genuine connection. So guys, help me welcoming our special guest today, the author, Andrew Semotiuk. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Joyan. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's dive right into it. I enjoy reading the book. Thank you so much for sharing. And so your book focused on understanding our biology or emotions. Could you first share with our listeners today how our biology guides us away from danger or towards safety, and how this understanding is crucial in navigating relationships?
So yeah, biology most definitely guides us away from danger and towards safety. It helps us stay alive, right? At the very, very root of it. And one thing that is critical for humans to survive is society interacting with the people around us. Hence why the biology of emotions is so critical, yet largely not even thought about.
Okay, so what is your background and what inspires you to write this book on emotions?
Well, my background is in biomedical science, specifically physiology, brain physiology research. Then I shifted into actually plant science and did lots of ethnobotany, so sociological work. But I always loved the pathways maps, um, specifically some by Donald Nicholson. And most things in life we encounter follow certain pathways, identifiable pathways, including how emotions start and guide us from within us. So the biology of emotions follows a pathway like most other biological processes.
Yeah, actually, I would say that's the most interesting thing that when I read your book, right, it was the most interesting thing that I learned about, which is the pathways of the pathways map that you just mentioned, right? So in your book, there's this pathway, right? Of course, listeners they
Mhm.
wouldn't know unless they go and buy the book, which I want them to, right? So in the first chapter of the book, so you discuss this pathway in the first chapter of the book, if I'm not wrong. You call it the pathway of sensation, emotion, and need. So
Mhm.
explain that, and when an event happens, right, it creates physical sensations followed by emotion, and how our response can either be boundaries or opportunities. So can you
Mhm.
talk about that?
So sensations, bodily sensations, most definitely come before emotions. And that becomes very apparent if you think about like walking through the brush and something pokes you, a thorn from a rose bush pokes you. You're going to have some bodily sensation. And if it keeps happening, you might get annoyed. You might feel even angry or something, or sad that you're now in pain. And that guides you to a need. You change your environment, you change your actions, get somewhere else, put up a defense. So if we think about those three as a triad, it really helps people understand these emotions that they have.
Mm, okay. This is, of course, I'm not the expert, right? But this is based on my own life experiences and talking to others. Some people, they stay in uncomfortable emotions. For example, it could be a toxic relationship for way too long and then refuse to change, right? Why is that?
Mhm. Okay, so many people are uncomfortable with emotions.
Mm,
Um, and you'll often find people that are scared of fear, for example, which is very almost funny to have people that are scared of being scared of something. Um, you have people that get quite angry if they see somebody that's sad. They tell them angrily to cheer up, right? Um, so many people treat emotions as behaviors, but when we're able to separate them into bodily sensations and emotions and needs, and then actions taken to fill those needs, it becomes very almost like a light bulb goes off and you see, oh, that person's doing that toxic behavior, as you mentioned, which is this automatic attempt in response to these emotions they're feeling to fill a need, but it's really not working, right? So no, many people respond to their emotions that are guiding them to fill a need, but in a way that doesn't actually fill it. And that's not really fun. It
mm,
happens quite a bit.
okay. The other question I have, when you talk about that is like,
It's a deep
when the same,
topic.
yeah, yeah, I really love that, right? I really love talking about this topic. So when the same event happens, right, to two different people, let's say the same event happens, it could be, the example that I heard was like COVID-19. When COVID happened, people
Mhm.
reacted differently. So why, when the same event happened to just, let's say, me and you, right, we could react differently. You
Mhm.
feel anger, I could feel sad. Like, why is that? But same event.
So if somebody has a similar event, seemingly similar outside of them, and most people focus on the response, right? Same event, different response. Why is that? When you look at what's happening in their body, their bodily sensations, what emotion comes from that, what need they perceive to have, what need they actually have, because the same, just because we are exposed to the same event, we might have different needs related to that. We may have different emotions, and we most likely have different bodily sensations that go back to our life experience, right? So when we start piecing that together, we start understanding these pieces of how us with our life story respond to things that might be different than like you would respond much different than me.
Yeah.
We have different life stories, different experiences, and without knowing someone's life story, we can at least know they might have different needs. I could ask you your need. Most people can't even say their need very uh, precisely. I could ask you your emotion. Now we're getting clearer, but it really gets interesting when you become aware of your own bodily sensations and even those of others. So it starts making more sense why they're responding the way they do. Doesn't mean you agree with it or not. It's just, or even if it's something to agree with or not, it's just really eye-opening.
Yeah, because in the book you also say that there's no right or
Hmm.
wrong emotion, so it's just emotion. So you talk about bodily sensation a lot throughout this conversation for the past 10 minutes. So, what is bodily sensation, and is that how emotions were created?
So that the creation of emotions is a huge topic, okay, and has historically been debated in the scientific literature. But basically, if you think about it, you have a sensing how your body feels is connected to your emotion, okay? And people talk, okay, what if you just have emotions? If you're like, you're not going to feel scared unless you become aware of the bear chasing after you. But guess what? If the bear's chasing after you, there's a bodily sensation connected to that, right? So your body has to get ready for danger or for some opportunity, right? So something's going to happen in your body if you're excited to go pick blueberries,
Mm-hmm.
right? Think about little kids. What happens to their body? They're excited that they're moving. Adults can sense their own body also. But then when you see a bear behind that bush, you're also going to have different events happen in your body, and they go together because the often the bodily sensations match the emotion because they both have the purpose of getting our needs met.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so
Okay.
if our emotions didn't get our needs met, we would be in big trouble, and which is kind of opposite of the whole point of the concept of biology that we develop these traits to help us, right? So if you're happy that the bear is attacking you and excited to go encounter this bear attacking you, that's kind of a mismatch, right? So anger would motivate us, or fear or something, sadness, would motivate us to get to a different environment in
Mm,
that situation.
okay. So, how do we find out what are our needs as individuals, and how do we get our needs met in a healthier way?
Hmm. So most people really, really almost um, shun needs, right? You hear phrases like being needy,
Yeah.
right? So it can almost be a put down, an insult. So number one for getting needs met is realizing that all day, every day is a needs meeting game. That's all we do. All we do is meet our needs all day long, all night long. So it's literally what we do. Um, and it's good, it's great. Then being able to identify them with accuracy, precisely, with very specific language. If I say, I need you to be nice to me, yes, that's true. That's great, but what does that mean, right? If there's some issue and something very vague might not help me get what I need. So getting really specific, right? Like especially interacting with other people. So if you go have your assess your own bodily sensations, your emotions, you can start to actually realize what your need is. Okay, when Joyan gives a gift, something amazing, I like my heart pounds and I just feel so comfortable, right? But then when like I'm ignored, I have this other sensation. Maybe I feel sad and I get worried. Okay, what happened? Maybe we're not friends anymore, right? So I can express like I need those gifts to know that we're good, we're okay. For example, just
Mm,
as an example, depending on the type of relationship you have, then the other person most likely would want to know that. So, okay, so I gave a really complicated answer earlier, but the easiest way is to just open the book and go down the list and put your finger down the list and find the one that is most accurate. Because most people struggle to really describe what their need is. So having just a list of needs that are categorized really helps them.
okay.
Yeah, I love that, right? When you're maybe you're in an argument with your partner, you just pull out the book and go through the list and say, this is what I need right now.
Yeah, yeah. So well, speaking of argument, so
Yeah.
um, one of them, the in the roles worksheet, it's touched on in the book, not quite as much, but I separate the needs into opposing needs, very common general ones. 'Cause
Mm,
most people really it's hard for them to find very specific ones, but at least seeing the direction is really good. Like independence versus cooperation, right? I'm looking at the worksheet I use with my kids right now. Talking versus listening.
mm,
I need to talk, I need to listen. Creativity versus structure. So maybe I need to play, maybe I need to work. Play versus work. Communication versus privacy. Exploration versus routine, right? Those can be lots of trigger points for conflict, right? Um, Somebody really needs cooperation, the other person is thinking they're helping the world by having everybody be independent. So just knowing what's going on can really ablate the confrontation.
yeah. Okay. And you also have a list of shoots, right? In the book. I find that really interesting. So,
Oh, should. Well, most people have them, right?
oh yeah.
Um, they start from little kids get shoulded on, right? So shoulds are very nice. People tell us what we should do, and that has a very specific survival advantage in that somebody that's had an experience that you're about to go into can tell you what you should do. So that's like basically telling the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of humanity's superpowers. We can predict the future based on information we have, and we can pass on wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Really complicated things. So if I've experienced something, I can pass that on. And it often comes out as what you should do. But what if your experience you enter is a little bit different than mine, or a lot different, and you use the wrong should at the wrong time? Well, might not work out for you. So hence why it's so important to assess all the shoulds that we've assembled throughout our life.
Right. And the shoot that we tell others to do, right? Like you should do this, you shouldn't,
Well, yeah,
especially kids, right? So how do you, I know because I saw your son earlier, so how do you help your kids like at such a young age to understand emotions and navigate through their emotions and improve their emotional intelligence?
we often have an attachment circle. So most people, including kids, they have to overcome a huge barrier to um, say if something's working for them or not, or express a need. They have to interrupt somebody. They have to be shut down. They have to like say, no, no, this is important. So we have an intentional time where we do stories and playing and stuff, but we always have a time where everybody can say something and they want to. And then for situations that happen, we ask, how did it work for them? And how did it work for the other people
Mm,
around them? Because let's face it, so many times where kids have to comply with what's going on around them, how often do they get asked how it works for them,
never.
right? Well, they do if they have an attachment circle, right? So it's very nice, and you there's lots to learn
What is an attachment
from these
circle?
little people. So attachment circle is something I do. So um, it's really a recreation of the arguable origin of speech, which is the fireside, right? So we sit in a circle. If we have a light or campfire or a candle or something, so don't burn your house down, and have a game, song. I don't know. Depends on what some age appropriate thing, but the key is that everybody has a chance to speak and be heard, right? And then when situations come up in the topic, we have this critical questions. How does it work for you? How does it work for, like, if it's me and you, how does it work for you? How does it work for me? Or if it's a group, how does it work for you? And everybody can say how it works for them. Um, and I think it's very important that there's an intentional time that people know they're going to be heard.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love the idea, especially in family, right? Because when there are so many
Mhm.
people around, right, and everyone has their own life experiences, although it's in the same household, but everyone still go through their own life experiences, it's very different.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, right? So, you also talk about the I statements in the book, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that how we use I statements to express ourselves authentically?
Yeah. So an I statement is is very important when so you just talk about yourself, right? So nobody it really evades the debate, right? You said this about me. What does that mean, right? So if I have a thing as opposed to I can say, so here's the progression. You like you said this about me. And like what does that mean? So it has some implied meaning,
Mm-hmm.
but most people don't get the implied meaning. So I can go towards an I statement. I felt really triggered, or I didn't like what you said. Okay, at least that's about myself. So that's really non-debatable. If I
Right.
want to get even more like useful, I can say that I was like really like felt my face full like hot with anger, and I was really worried that you were attacking me on purpose, right? So I need to either know that you're not, or find some safe place for both of us. And but the problem is most people don't talk about really useful things. They just talk about the other person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, most of the time we blame the other person, we blame anyone but ourselves, right? In a situation like it could be challenging. So um okay, let's talk about challenging emotions for a minute because although you said, there's no right or bad, right or wrong, sorry, good or bad emotion, but there are still some challenging or negative emotions, could be judgment, could be blame, could be I don't know, criticism, right? So how do we turn those negative, quote unquote, negative emotions into something positive or into opportunities like you
Okay,
said?
okay. So we separate them.
Uh,
Criticism. So
yeah.
you had you talked about criticism and blame or judgment or blame or criticism, some of those. So let's say somebody's angry. That's a good one. Lots of people are terrified of anger. Somebody is really just angry with you,
Mm-hmm.
and you can criticize them of common ones. What do you say angry about? Calm down, right? It tells okay they shouldn't be angry, so to speak, or they're just out of control.
Yeah.
But was it their anger that's the problem, or maybe some behavior of theirs that was the problem? That's the first thing. Okay. So to separate their behavior from the emotion. So assuming that the behavior isn't dangerous at time being, and you're just able to address the emotion, why would we criticize having that emotion? Many people would. You can't be angry. Some people shun people for being angry, right? They treat it as an action, but it's really not. It's just associated with some actions. So now that we all know that anger is simply a boundary defense telling people that, okay, there's something hurting them, they're trying to put a boundary against, we can just ask when we're in a situation where the communication is going. But if we can find out what's causing that anger,
Mm.
what they're trying to get away from, so to speak, then it's really enlightening. It's much more powerful if they can figure out the cause of their anger too, right? But once people realize that anger is a boundary defense, what boundary of mine was crossed, it doesn't really matter if other people think it's an important boundary or not. it was to me, then it becomes very useful.
Yeah. I think you mentioned something really critical, which is the root cause of an emotion, right? So, I mean, because I would like to say that I'm quite self-aware, right, of my own day-to-day
Mhm.
emotions. So whenever I feel, let's say, sadness or anxiety, overwhelmed, I will ask myself, I pause and ask myself, why am I feeling this way? Like, why am I feeling
Mhm.
sad? Why am I feeling anxious, right? What causes this? So in moment like this, right, when a third person is not involved, like what some of the questions or self-awareness strategies or tools that we can use to navigate our day-to-day emotions?
Okay, so when you don't have a third party to kind of help navigate and guide with you, the, there are some, what I find it useful is understanding the direction that your own emotions are taking you. Okay. So most people interpret their emotions based on what they've been trained from the language model, along with what they feel inside of them, right? Because we all have these the emotions guide us whether we're aware of them or not,
Yeah.
right? We just have all this language and judgment and reproach and some good things placed on top. So a good way to think about them is for what they actually are, right? Directions. And for kids, I talk about them as twin siblings. So why am I feeling sad versus why am I feeling happy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my sadness tells me there's something in the environment I'm in that doesn't work for me. And my joy, my happiness, will tell me, okay, something in this environment's working for me. Very simple examples. I'm happy at a birthday party. I'm going to go to another birthday party. I'm sad when I drop my watch down a sewer drain. I'm going to make sure I don't walk on top of a sewer drain with a loose watch, right? Anger and excitement or relation. They're twin siblings. Excitement motivates us to seize opportunities. It motivates us to do things we normally wouldn't to seize an opportunity. Anger motivates us to do things we normally wouldn't to get out of danger. I normally wouldn't um let's think of hit me what's a good opportunity? I don't know. People look at game shows, people going for cash, right? They normally wouldn't
Yeah.
jump over these puddles of slime and climb these walls just for fun or whatever, but maybe they would. That would be fun. But then they grab this cash, right? So they're excited. They do things they wouldn't to get the cash. Let's say your life is in danger. Somebody's like going to hurt you. You might just attack them, put up
Yeah.
a boundary. You might kick them in the face. You normally wouldn't just kick me in the face, Joyan, but you
Yeah.
would in that situation, right? Because you're angry, or it leads us into fear and confidence, right? So if that's a good, I really like fear and confidence, those twin siblings, because they tell us about humanity, right? One of humanity's superpowers is knowing what's going to happen. We're not just floating around. We can guide ourselves. So if we know what's going to happen, we can, I would say I feel confident.
Mm.
But when we don't know what's going on, it's really scary. And people wonder why kids get scared.
Well,
Nobody tells them what's going on, right? So knowing what's going on is that's and pride and shame, um, when our list of shoulds that we talked about works for us, when our strategies are working, we
mm.
feel really like proud, right? Think of games. Your game strategy works, you feel proud about your performance. Um, if what you do doesn't work and something really, really painful happens, well, you might feel shame that your strategy didn't work, right? They're very opposing, um, and so just seeing them like that is very non-judgmental and quite useful.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that you talk about the twin siblings, right? Because the one thing I like to say to my listeners is everything you want is on the other side of your fear, right? Could be confidence, it could be joy, it could be peace, right? But the opposite side of your fear, right? So yeah, I'm really glad that you talk about that, fear and confidence. I really like that. So so the last thing I want to talk to you about is something that I read on your book in the chapter 6. You talk about the transition points on your mental calendar. So I was like, what is a mental
Oh
calendar?
yeah.
And how do we make transition
Yeah.
points and why does it matter?
So that, yeah, that's another big subject.
Uh-huh.
Um, Keep in mind this book is a letter kind of catch-all, but the transition points are so critical. So say you have a child that goes through life, there's some transition points that you would expect, right? They move from diapers to potty trained, but then there's other ones that really people lose sight of because well, maybe they forgot, they didn't get there. But there are times when we renegotiate how we interact with the people around us. Okay. So big ones are like getting married, right? That's a good one to talk about. So if I interact with my parents in a certain way for my whole life, and just like any other person, any other human, there's boundaries and opportunities, and there's needs that are met or some left unmet, and people kind of reach a stable point. But then now I might be connected to this other person
Mm-hmm.
who has a different set of needs. Okay. So now people call it renegotiate, but in essence, what's happening is I have now an additional set of boundaries and opportunities to navigate with who are now her in-laws or now her parents or my in-laws, for example. And that can lead to conflict or learning, more understanding, right? So that's one where people have to renegotiate. Other ones that are kind of more interesting than in-law issues are when people start getting older, from a child to 12, 13, 14, there's changes in their brain, right? So they start climbing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So they're tuning more into all the different synonyms of what people would call actualization or their life's vision, things like that. And many people aren't ready to accept what your life vision might be, where what you just feel is right for you. And that can lead to, well, hopefully positive renegotiation and some fun boundaries and necessary or fun opportunities and necessary boundaries. Boundaries aren't always that fun. Um, but but oftentimes not. People don't clue into that. So lots of transition points in life like that.
Yeah, and lots of learnings and growth, right? So yeah, I
Yeah,
must say,
well, he hope so.
yeah, emotions is really a complex subject, and I'm so glad that we had this conversation. Learning so much from you so far. I'm sure my listeners are as well. So before we end, do you have anything that you really want to talk about? Perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you.
Um, yeah, so with the biology of motions, it's just really quite fun. The thing I like most about it is it's completely non-judgmental. You hear lots of pop psychology and stuff like that. They really like judgmental. Like the worst I can't stand is people shaming people for not having boundaries. It's
Mm,
like, okay, I have no boundaries, so I'm just going to take your shame and automatically have these wonderful boundaries. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. But understanding boundaries and opportunities, okay, actually having a non-judgmental understanding of what's going on, it's really, really fun and exciting. So, really fun place to be.
yeah, and I'm sure this book is really fun and exciting to read as well. So guys, I'm telling you, go and get this book. So Andrew, tell us where is the okay? How do people get this book, buy this book, and what is the best way to?
On Yeah, so on Amazon, I have my author profile. Just type in Andrew Semotiuk and it should come up. So there's Kindle and hardcover.
Awesome. And this is just one of the series, right? You're gonna release more series down.
Yes, yeah, more coming. So I have the Biology of Emotion series, and then also a storybook series with family dynamics
Wow.
that are meant to be read aloud, right?
Oh,
So for kids to respond to. It's really quite fun.
yeah, it's really fun. So thank you so much for coming. And all right, guys, I hope you find this episode extremely helpful and you learn a lot from today's episode as well. Go follow Andrew, get this book on Amazon or Kindle today. I will put all the links in the show note below. So make sure you visit the show note, follow him, and check out all the amazing things that he is doing. And also follow us on Instagram if you haven't already. And remember to like and subscribe so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you with every other episode. Show up, the world needs you, and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyan.
Thank you again for tuning into 5Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag 5Joyan_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.